It is that time, ladies and gentlemen. We are back, Squared Circle Radio, live on the air. The show that is for the fans, by the fans. I'm your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting Chris Belcher. That is the young buck, Mr. Andy York. And welcome back, my brother from another mother, the whole podcasting show. I didn't forget this time, Jared Justice. Welcome back to the show, man. How are we?
I'm glad that you're getting a little bit used to me being back on here and got my intro right. So I think we're doing good.
Listen, you sound like Bully Ray on Busted Open. Every time Dave misses like one of his nicknames, Bully throws in. He's like, well, you missed this and you missed that. But good morning to you. It's hilarious.
I love Bully Ray, man. I really do. He makes that show.
He really does. It's a fantastic show. For those of you who are watching our show that don't watch Busted Open, please check it out. We're going to talk about Bully Ray, Andy, a little bit later, making a surprise appearance yesterday at NXT. We'll talk about that a little later. It's a loaded show, Andy.
Yeah, it is, man. I think we've been saying this for like 2 years now, but it seems like something massive happens every week, whether it's storyline or backstage or pay-per-view or whatever it is. And, we're previewing a pay-per-view this week. We're recapping one next week. I think we have another pay-per-view the following week. It's a busy time right now.
I'll tell you what's awesome is that for the first time, and I couldn't tell you how long, maybe since I was like back being a teenager watching the Attitude Era, but like I keep wanting new content. Like I think, man, I need to see what happened last. Maybe I can rewatch it. But then you only have so many shows. And usually before this, it was always like, I have to watch this show. I mean, am I going to be able to make it through this one? So it's a great feeling to have that again, man.
Yeah, it really is, because there for a while, it was a chore to get through all of the stuff. And it was like, oh man, they're adding another show. Oh my goodness, I got to take away a show because I don't have time to watch all this stuff. I still feel that way because we're going to talk about TNA at the end of the show. And I really wish I could add that to my rotation. But all that to say, wrestling is in an incredible spot as we head towards the end of the year, 6 months away from WrestleMania as we are in October. So things are white hot. There's no downtime this year. We appreciate you guys being locked in. If you're watching us live, like the video, that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done that, what in the world are you waiting for? Join the conversation, drop some comments in the chat. Vote in our poll in the chat. What Crown Jewel match are you looking forward to most? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Faithful Aaron Grisham back in the chat after missing last week's show. His vote is in, and we know why. Of course, he voted for Liv Morgan and Nia Jax, and that's just because Aaron is a big fan of Liv Morgan. I was going to say we're going to leave it at that, but Jared apparently has other plans. All right, let's get to it. Monday Night Raw just went off the air, and not a whole lot. Andy, I'm going to throw to you first on this. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, man. It seems like there are times that Triple H struggles to book go-home shows. And I don't know if that's because he's saving all of his cards to the pay-per-view or what have you, but sometimes it feels like he struggles to book go-home shows. And I know that Crown Jewel is this glorified house show that we all know what it is, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But did you get that sense at all on Monday Night Raw tonight?
Yeah, this didn't feel like a go-home show at all, in my opinion. It felt like a decent episode of Raw, but it didn't feel like this. If this was my first time watching, this made me like the only outside of probably Seth and Bronson. That was the only thing that made me want to tune in to Crown Jewel. Nothing else really made me want to tune into Crown Jewel on Saturday. So, if you've been watching for a while, you probably like everything's going to be fine and fill into it. But if you're like the first time picking up and watching, I don't know why he struggles with go home shows. I think the only like impactful one was probably the one before WrestleMania, because if you don't get that one right, then you're just kind of incompetent at what you're doing, to be real honest with you. But I don't know why he seems to struggle with go home shows when it comes to these big pay-per-views or just a small pay-per-view like Crown Jewel.
I feel like that he has, we're not used to somebody booking so far down the road. And I think that he has so much in his mind that's already mapped out that he has to struggle to not give too much away. Like, I think he has all this planned out, And sometimes it's kind of like, boom, you know, what's a nice way to say this? You just let everything go at once. And you either do that or you have to kind of hold yourself back. And so I think a lot of times he holds himself back and we get not the best go home shows. Hey, I was polite.
You were polite. I appreciate that. As Aaron says already, Jared's a man of culture. And he said that when you were talking about Liv Morgan, but I think the comment applies here as well. Yeah, I think it's interesting to look at Triple H's go home shows. And if there was one thing that we could pick at his form of booking, again, we all love long-term storytelling. We're all huge fans of that, but it just seems like Jared, I think, hit the nail on the head. He's got these things set in these certain dates, and sometimes those don't land on go home shows. And sometimes it's just, we have to let them cook, as Sam Roberts would say. So
drives me nuts, but he's correct.
That is correct. Yes. All right. Let's get to one thing that didn't really happen on Raw tonight. It got teased. It really started last week, and we're continuing this story. We mentioned it last week, and I had a thought about this earlier this week, and I want to get your all's perspective. I'll go to Jared first on this. The Wyatt Six showed up last week for the first time in a long time, targeting the Final Testament. Now, it's really interesting, Jared, because this is the second group that they're going after, first being American Made with Chad Gable. Now they're going after the Final Testament. Seemingly the target, seemingly it's led by Karrion Kross, that group is. But we have this really interesting alliance with The Miz and the Final Testament right now. And we saw at the end of the Wyatt Six's appearance, you had Uncle Howdy try to jump The Miz from behind. Paul Ellering jumped and saved The Miz, took the mandible claw. But Jared, that got me to thinking, man, I don't think the target here is Karrion Kross. Like Chad Gable was the leader of American Made and he was the target. I don't think it's Karrion Kross. I think it's The Miz, because look back at the history of Bo Dallas and The Miz and all of the pain that The Miz caused when Bo Dallas was in the Miztourage and just everything that he went through. What do you think? The Miztourage. It's what it was called. The B team. We call them the B team. That was their tag team name. What do you
call them the Loser Squad?
Well, call them whatever you will. The Miz tortured those guys. And now Bo Dallas, Jared, is here for payback.
And man, I hate it because, I mean, I've talked to you before, like, I don't care about anything The Miz touches. And I really want to be involved in the storyline. Like, I think we're going to see a really good, like, what would be 5-on-5 or 4-on-4 with just the men, if this all goes to one big match. I think it's going to be an awesome faction war. I don't care about The Miz. And I don't want to see him on my TV. And, like, there he is. And so I just wish, like, I think the whole thing is like Karrion Kross is a master manipulator. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if somehow, like, he's trying to manipulate Miz, but then, like, Bo has some sort of plan of his own to try to manipulate The Miz. I think that's what we're seeing. I just don't care about it. Like, it's awful TV. But go ahead.
Aaron, I see your comment. We'll get to that in just a second, Andy.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, you know, I think Miz has done great stuff in his career. I just, if the Fiend feud with the Miz tells us anything about Miz with these kind of characters, the story doesn't work out well, and it doesn't work out great. I'm more curious about Bo Dallas and Karrion Kross than I am about Bo Dallas and Miz, because I think this is going to give Karrion Kross that opportunity to remind people of how good he was back in NXT before, you know, the guillotine mask and everything else that he was punished with for no reason.
Gladiator, not guillotine. Come on.
and I hope they take this chance to, like, actually do something with Scarlett. Yeah. Because, I mean, of course she's beautiful. She has the look. I mean, they can do something with her to make her, like, I don't know, a women's wrestler. I don't know what her skill set is, but definitely to highlight her more, I think would be a good choice.
She can go out there and hit a Canadian Destroyer on Bo Dallas like she did Jacob Fatu.
Ooh, I did hear about that.
That'll work.
She did it. That's true. Jared, are you putting her over Liv Morgan in this situation?
Based on looks, yeah, man. I think probably Scarlett would be one of the top ones really in the whole world of wrestling, at least WWE that I watch right now.
Well, we'll leave that comment at that. All right.
I have to hear my wife talk about Roman Reigns' abs when he comes out. So, I mean, I don't think she's going to care if I throw in something about Scarlett.
Oh, that's hilarious. Speaking of the Miz, R-Truth sucker punching him backstage was absolutely hilarious. Not what I expected to happen tonight. But that was really funny. And Andy, R-Truth saying, "Good luck with the Wyatts. Y'all gonna die."
Oh, I love it. I love it. I think that's fantastic.
Wait, Jared, wait, Jared, how can you hate R-Truth? How?
It's easy. Just look at him. It just happens. It overtakes me. It's like the hatred just, there's another one. I just don't want to see him on my TV screen. It's part of the old generation, part of the old nonsense we have to deal with. Get rid of it.
Oh my gosh.
Just let him start smoking cigarettes again, ringside, like he did when he feuded with Cena that one time, and that'll bring him back to life.
Who smoked cigarettes?
R-Truth did. He straight up smoked a cigarette and blew the smoke on Cena one time.
I think I do remember that, which is crazy to think of today's world that we live in and how terrible cigarette smoking is. So.
Yeah. But I'm very curious, because obviously Miz and Truth aren't done. So I don't, that's why part of me may think Miz was just the tool to use to get them to the Final Testament. So that way Miz can go off and do something with R-Truth, and then we can go off with the Wyatt Six and Final Testament, hopefully.
As long as Miz goes off is all I care.
Very interesting. A couple quick highlights. We saw the War Raiders get the win in the triple threat match, which we all sort of figured was going to happen. So they'll take on Finn Balor and JD McDonough at some point for the tag titles. Dom Mysterio getting the surprise roll-up win over Damian Priest. Looks like he is in line for a match against Gunther at some point, which will be absolutely hysterical. All right, let's get to Aaron's comments. A really good question. And I haven't seen this online, so Aaron has been trolling the Twitter machine more than I have. He says, longtime caller, first time listener. Anyway, this is
Blake Taylor right now. Go ahead.
Listen, full disclosure, this is vacation Aaron that we're getting right now, so I know what's about to pop up in the comment section. Anyway, what are y'all's thoughts on people now complaining about the walkout shots from Gorilla? People are saying it's being overplayed.
I love it.
Oh, Jared, go ahead.
I mean, it's given us a view that we've never seen that I've always wanted to see. Like, you get to see the wrestler actually arrive, supposedly arrive, make their way into the venue, and then actually come out on the stage. And I love it. I mean, it's a different way of shooting. It's not this old, we have to keep gorilla position and everything else hid. Now we get to actually see, I loved whenever Randy Orton was coming through and he's like, "Hey, H, I got something to talk to you about." I don't know why I sounded Italian all of a sudden, but, it was just kind of cool seeing that interaction.
Yeah, wrestling fans are fickle, so I take what the internet wrestling community says and just kind of ignore it most of the time. It works really well, a couple weeks ago or last week when Braun Breaker and Jey Uso fought for the IC title, and they do a pre-match interview with Breaker. It makes sense for the camera to just follow him all the way to the ring. That makes total sense to me. Or at the beginning of a show when a superstar arrives and they're making their way to the ring, why not follow them all the way through? So it's given us a lot of great moments. I think it's given us the best Raw entrance of all time with Jey Uso a couple months ago when he walked in and the fans are going crazy. Or Sami Zayn in Montreal. It's given us a lot of really cool moments, and it's so different than anything that the Beaver Tooth ever did. So I love every single second of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think to a point it can be overdone because we want it to be special. We want it to still feel sacred. And Aaron says, I still want a gorilla cam. And I was about to bring that up. We mentioned the Triple H thing Jared did from Friday Night SmackDown. it was even more awesome to me, not the fact that Randy stopped to see Hunter on his way out, but the fact that we got a gorilla cam on Triple H when his music hit, and then he took his headset off and put his glasses down to go to the ring. So
do you think he queued up his own music and hit play and then was like, I've got to go do this?
I mean, according to the camera, if it was in real time, which I imagine it was, somebody else did it, because he didn't say a thing. He didn't motion for anything. He literally sat there. The music started. He took his headset off and got up. So I want to see that. Like, that would be really, really cool. I want to see more activity in Gorilla rather than just walking through. You know, every now and then we'll get a backstage interview there, or every now and then, you know, Randy Orton says something to Triple H, or, you know, Adam Pearce meets somebody in Gorilla or whatever. So I want to see more interaction there rather than just Jared people passing through.
Here's what I want to see, man, is I want to see at WrestleMania, whenever we get this next big heartfelt moment and the superstar comes back through Gorilla and there's Triple H with the big old bear hug.
Yes.
I want to see that.
Yes, because we see it. We normally see it, Andy, on social media later, so we all get to enjoy it then. But give us that moment like on actual WrestleMania. That would be awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like if WrestleMania 40 would have done that with Cody walking back and like the superstars are there clapping for him and he's, you know, backstage, whatever. I think the best use of it has honestly was when the Wyatt Six debuted.
Of course.
Like they used it earlier in the night they did an interview backstage to kind of show you what it looked like. And then all of a sudden when they started cutting through backstage, it made sense. Gorilla was set up the way it was and you saw all the different angles and everything else. So like you said, I think there's a way to use it. I don't think we're overusing it yet because it's not happening like every week or the same time every week or whatever the case is. So I'm enjoying it still. And, you know, like I hope we kind of get more playful with it and just see what kind of comes from it at the same time.
One of my favorite moments ever in wrestling was WrestleMania 10, if I'm not mistaken, after Bret Hart won the World Championship belt. And all the wrestlers come to the ring and they're hoisting him up. Like, I want to see that type of moment, but caught backstage that we normally would not get to see.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I'm with you on that. All right, in case you missed it, we are live, Squared Circle Radio, live with you directly after Monday Night Raw. We're going to preview Crown Jewel in just a few minutes. We got lots of stuff to talk about. We appreciate you guys being with us. Here's the thing. I said we're going to preview Crown Jewel. I said we're going to talk about a lot of things. These guys make fun of me that I got notes right here. Ladies and gentlemen, you people in the chat, we want to talk about what you want to hear about. So you drive the show. You tell us what to talk about. We'll answer your questions. We'll take them live. If you're watching the replay on the YouTube channel, still drop us some comments. We try to respond to each and every one of them. If you haven't liked the video yet, please make sure that you do that and subscribe to the channel. That would help us a ton.
And as you're listening, even if you're not listening live and you hear the kind of conversation that we have, think about next time. Next time, join us live. Have a good question or two queued up, and then fire them at us.
That's it. We will take the live bullets. No topic is off limits from the wrestling sphere. We will do our best to answer any and all questions. Right now, want to tell you about our friends over at SportsWire Radio. Tom Bryce and the crew still riding high after achieving 1,000 YouTube subscribers. That number is climbing and climbing. Show those guys some support, and here's how you can do it.
Looking for all the latest happenings in the world of sports and wrestling? Well, you're in luck, because SportsWire Radio has you covered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. With great shows in the world of sports, such as the Pinstripe Chronicles, hosted by Uncle Tats, Donald Stewart, and Rob Barrows. New York Baseball Talk with Chris Bazaya and Rob Maraska. The Liftoff Jets, also hosted by Chris Bazaya and Sharman Phillip. Neil Villapiano and the Devil's State of Mind. Randy Dillon's Hockey Fan Chat. In the world of wrestling, SportsWire Radio has you covered with Squared Circle Radio, featuring Chris Belcher, Andy York, and Jared Justice. Those sit-down Marks with DB, Primo, AJ, and Michael. A work in progress featuring the Mayor of Canton, Piles, and Glenn Abbott. You can catch all of these great shows and more anytime, anywhere, and any place via the Listen Live button on sportswireradio.org, and you can also catch Sportswire Radio anytime on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579 to catch all the latest happenings in the world of wrestling. Sportswire Radio has you covered. It's all sports matters and all wrestling matters here on Sportswire Radio. I am your host, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station, the owner of the Promo Wrestling Federation, and one of the owners of the Pride Wrestling Federation, your voice, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters, the Reverend Tom Bryce.
Appreciate that dude so much and all the support that Sportswire Radio gives our show. Can't thank them.
Do you think we can ever get Tom Bryce on here? Like,
you know,
it's one time.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Jared, because Tom Bryce and I were talking about that very thing. So that is going to happen in the very near future. He will be on the show, and I have to throw this up. If Tom Bryce is not listening or watching live right now, I'm going to send him this clip. As Aaron Grisham says, I need Thomas Bryce to hype me up before a night out to find my next wife.
Yes.
Oh, man.
That's the kind of energy that Tom Bryce brings. We need it on the show.
Oh, my Lord. Oh, my goodness. All right, Vacation Aaron's in full swing. Here we go. Before we get to Crown Jewel, want to talk about a big title change that happened this past Friday night on SmackDown. 3 matches into the company, ladies and gentlemen, and the Motor City Machine Guns are your brand new WWE Tag Team Champions. It was a wild night, ladies and gentlemen. Andy, I'll kick it off with you first. An incredible match with the Guns and DIY. That was the match that was scheduled. And then the Bloodline comes out and Solo says, let's just have the match right now. And the Guns are like, well, yeah, shoot, let's go. And they have the match. And the Motor City Machine Guns win the tag titles thanks to help from the Usos and Roman Reigns, which we'll get to in just a little bit. But what a night for the Machine Guns, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, you want to make them feel, you know, like you want to make them credible and a threat early on, especially like, you know, they went over the history of their run in TNA and all over the place, and people get that, but like they don't see that every week. You want to make them feel important, though. You do stuff like this. And so I have no problem with them winning the title 3 matches in, especially with how good they are. You know, no offense to the greatest wrestler of all time, Tonga Loa, but you put them on somebody like that's credible in Machine Gun, and you let them go out there and defend against DIY. You let them defend against the Street Profits. You let them defend against, you know, whoever else. It makes those titles feel even more important. And so I think it's a smart idea to give them the titles right away.
And I would like to see them against like what's their name? Akam and Razor.
Oh yeah, Authors of Pain.
Yeah. That'd be a good match, I feel like.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think anybody that you put in the ring against the Machine Guns is going to be incredible. The DIY match, again, like we can't say that enough. How the relationship between those guys outside of the ring and now it is able to come on screen. Let me just tell you this, Jared. Gargano accidentally super kicking Tommaso Ciampa in the match is coming back at some point. Maybe sooner rather than later. It's going to happen.
I have wanted so long, and me and you have talked about this all the way from back WrestleManias ago, whenever we went and saw a couple live, that we would love to see this feud on the main roster. Like, we have everything that we can go back and show clips, and we can build on it, but they need a full-fledged feud for the world to see, and I think that would be awesome. And just another thing to throw in there before we get too far along, I was watching the Motor City Machine Guns match with my wife and daughter, which is always a fun time. So I hear, who's that guy? He looks like a big monkey. And they're talking about the redheaded guy in Motor City Machine Guns. And I can't swear that I've ever actually sit down and watched Mr. Monkey and his partner ever have like an actual wrestling match. But I mean, they are great. So, but one does look like a monkey. I'm just going to say that.
Interesting. Wait, okay.
Oh,
If you're watching on the YouTube channel, I'm going to throw this back up. So, Jared, we're talking about the one on the left, right?
Correct. Yes.
Andy, help me
Yeah.
out. That's
so the
Alex
one on the
Shelley,
right, the one on the right is Alex Shelley.
and the one on the left is Chris
Is
Sabin.
it Saban? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
So
think
Chris
I
Sabin
like.
is the monkey boy. Okay.
Chris Sabin is the monkey, I guess.
I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure that's.
I think that's accurate. They said it in the promo.
Yeah.
I take notes, but apparently I take bad notes. So there's that.
At least you take notes.
Hell yeah, take notes.
All right, guys. This coming Saturday, it's WWE Crown Jewel glorified house show once again. But we're about to talk about a couple of stories that are really, really good and have some interesting directions as they could go in. And this pay-per-view is an interesting caveat for all of those. Now, I'm going to give a disclaimer for those of you watching, listening, whether you're listening live or you're listening to the replay, unless you're listening after Friday. We are about to talk about spoilers from this coming Friday SmackDown. It was taped this past Friday. I feel like we cannot talk about this pay-per-view without talking about those spoilers. Normally, I wouldn't do that. I hate spoilers, stupid internet, ruining that for all of us. I would like to be surprised and entertained, but we have to talk about the spoilers because there's a 6-man tag match made for Crown Jewel, Roman Reigns and the Usos taking on the Bloodline. Now, I show you this graphic. Andy, it is not official. The Bloodline representatives have not been named yet. I assume it won't be Jacob Fatu. I assume it'll be the Tongans and Solo. Jacob probably has his travel issues that he can't get out. But let's talk about, Andy, the way that we got here. We just mentioned the Motor City Machine Guns winning the championships thanks to Jimmy and Jey Uso, who were totally separate. And then at the end of the night, because the Bloodline costed Jey the championship on Monday Night Raw, you see the reunion of Jimmy and Jey, a moment that we've all been clamoring for. But Andy, one man was not so sure what to think about his boys calling the plays, not him. But what a moment it was at the end of SmackDown, Andy.
Yeah, like you said, it's a moment we've been waiting for since, Jey officially left and was feuding with Jimmy and everything else. Like it's a moment we've been waiting for a minute. Honestly, this is happening a lot faster than I anticipated it to.
Me too.
Like, I thought that moment was going to come a couple of weeks from now. However, we are starting to get some more wrinkles into it from things that happened like tonight on Monday on Raw and things that are going to happen Friday, I'm sure as well. Yep. But it's a moment that it's something we've been waiting for. I'm excited that they're back together. I hope they're not back together like full time. Like I hope they're not back together as a tag team right away. Because I'm enjoying this Jey Uso singles run. Like I think he is doing a fantastic job. I think he can still do that. And just kind of fall back and forth. I'm very curious though to see what happens in this match at Crown Jewel because I don't know where they're gonna go.
How awesome is the sheer thought of Motor City Machine Guns against the Usos? Maybe the ladder match, maybe a TLC, but I mean they would absolutely blow the roof off the place. Can I talk about Sami Zayn? Are we there yet?
Let's talk about Sami Zayn because we saw it tonight. And before we get to the spoilers of Friday night, we saw tonight Jimmy and Jey promo beginning of Monday Night Raw. Jey is not sure. He's a different man. Like Andy said, he's had single success. He doesn't want to lose that. He doesn't want to be anybody's number 2 anymore. And then, Jared, they run into Sami Zayn backstage and some things happen that we're not quite sure about.
See, I thought they were a little bit hard on the old Sami Zayn whenever that they said, you don't understand because you're not family. And so just like we're talking about, like, how this is all coming together. And I do agree that it's being force-fed a little bit. They could have taken more time if they had the time to spare before Survivor Series. So maybe Triple H should have thought ahead a little bit better and had this planned out. But I think that one of the big wrinkles that we may get to see is how are we going to get Sami Zayn back in the fold? Because they have just pissed poor Sami off. So now, I mean, what are they going to have to do to bring him back in.
Yeah, I don't know. They said he's not family. Of course, Jey was the one that it took forever to warm up to Sammy, and Jey immediately is the first one that says he's not family. And then Jimmy's like, well, no, he's not. But
well, Jimmy didn't even want to talk to Jimmy. He
right.
said, can I talk to you alone? To Jey.
Yeah. And then when Jimmy and Jey are leaving, Andy spots Sammy talking to Solo in the parking lot. Don't know what to make of this.
That's the wrinkle that I was not expecting. Like, that's why I think they showed us the Usos getting back together so early, is because now the focus is going to be back on Sammy somewhat. Because I think we all can kind of agree, like, the high point of the bloodline was when Sami Zayn was a part of the bloodline. Like,
Yes.
every week it was the best moments when Sammy was a part of the bloodline. So when they go back and finally convince him to join them in their War Games match, because I'm like 99% sure that's where we're headed.
Yes.
Right.
He needs to feel a little oozy again, and they need to help him.
I really hope like they go the route. And we talked about you guys were talking about it with Gargano and Ciampa, like that happening at WrestleMania. We could have two best friends going at each other, because I think that literally enters them into a Sami Zayn Kevin Owens feud going into WrestleMania. And it makes it full circle, like for the entire bloodline story, whatever the Roman Rock situation is going to look like. Do Kevin and Sammy at the same time. You can do all these other things, and it's a full circle WrestleMania.
Yeah, the card, if you're going to have DIY on there against each other, the implosion of DIY, and then on the same card to have Sammy versus KO again. Woo! I mean, I feel a little oozy myself on that one.
And then we'll get to this in just a minute. You top that off with Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. If that were to happen, all three of those on the same WrestleMania. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So somebody explain to me why are we so excited about this match? Like, I'm one of those people that I think Randy Orton is awesome, but he almost nowhere near the Miz. But it's almost like you just don't want to watch what he's doing. For me, maybe just because I've watched him for so long and he's flipped back and forth, heel face. But like, I'm just not excited about that match like everybody else seems to be.
Well, let's hold that thought, because we're going to talk about that in just a minute. And maybe, just maybe, we can sell you on it. Just maybe. Just hold that thought for a second. Also, Johnny, I see your comment in the YouTube chat. I will get to that in just a second. I got one more point here I want to make, because, again, the internet spoiled what is happening this coming Friday on SmackDown. So again, I pushed the graphic. I'll throw it up again. Roman and the Usos against the Bloodline is supposedly confirmed for Crown Jewel. Of course, we haven't seen a graphic because the show hasn't aired. But of course, a huge moment happened in the taped version of SmackDown that's coming out this Friday ahead of Crown Jewel. And that is Roman Reigns officially confirming the reunion between Jimmy, Jey, and Roman, the original Bloodline, to make this match possible. I hate the internet. I wish, Andy, is there not a way they could have left this match off of Crown Jewel? Because again, if we're pushing towards Bloodline versus Bloodline and War Games, why are you giving us this at Crown Jewel? Could you not have held this off to the live SmackDown, not this coming Friday, but the following Friday? And then we don't get any kind of interaction until Survivor Series. Why tape this?
Yeah, I am not a fan of this happening on a taped version of SmackDown. Honestly, why not do this at Crown Jewel? Like, have a moment where you're going to have a Roman Reigns address the WWE Universe at Crown Jewel, and you have Jey Uso and Jimmy come out there, and you have this moment. Maybe, Solo and Jacob and Tama Tonga or whoever comes out there and interrupts them. And then they start brawling, and then you have somebody come out there and just be like, you know what? Let's have a 6-man tag right now and just have them go at it. Like, I think that's so much better than a taped version of this where it gets, exposed. We talked about it. This is the go-home moment that you want. So, This is the moment that, like, Triple H is booking for. But why are you doing it on a taped go-home? Why are you not doing it, live? Why are you not doing it in person? That's the thing that is very frustrating.
I mean, agreed is all I can say. I agree with every bit of that. Again, it shows that Triple H is booking ahead. But this is another one of those things that we're going to criticize, just like we used to whenever Vinnie Mac was in charge. He should have planned more for Survivor Series so everything cannot be rushed. And he also should think about not spoiling these moments that, regardless, he knows we're going to see before it happens. And it's like, oh, I really wanted to see that live and not know it was coming.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think, too, when we watch it this Friday, I think the crowd reaction will obviously help us as viewers, and we'll feel a little bit better about it. But the fact that we know it's coming is just a little unfortunate. One thing, Jared, that I want to get to real quick before we get our prediction for this six-man tag match, and then we move on through the rest of Crown Jewel. We got a lot to talk about. One thing I want to say is I want to talk about Solo Sikoa for just a minute. Now, a lot of people are not happy with Solo Sikoa and his place as the tribal chief. A lot of people, including some people on this podcast, Andy, have said
not mentioning any names.
That Jacob Fatu is just totally outshining Solo. Solo is not what he used to be, and he's not great, and blah, 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 blah. Hear me out. Solo Sikoa has spearheaded taking the bloodline from a cool bloodline group to, Jared, one that we can actually boo and they can truly be heels and we can prop up the baby faces even more. So if we're upset that Solo is not been as good as he's supposed to be, well, Jared, isn't that the point? He's an imposter Roman Reigns. He's an imposter tribal chief. So hasn't he done? I'm just saying, give the man his flowers. I think he's done a really good job in this role.
Well, just look at that picture that you have put up there. Look at the colors. It reminds me of NWO Wolfpack, just like a complete knockoff of the original black and white NWO. I mean, I never liked the Wolfpack, and I think this is exactly what we're seeing. I do think that Solo has done his role very well. But the problem is, coming out of this, I don't think Solo is going to be the one that is going to be kind of pushed farther on up the card. Like, once this is over, and it's going to be over soon, I think, with Solo, then I think that Jacob's going to step up. And again, I mention this just because I like hearing what other people who don't have a background in wrestling think. And my wife looked at me and she said, why is that guy in charge? The tribal chief. Why him? Why not that crazy looking guy? Jacob. And I was like, that is a very good question. And I would love to be able to answer that for you. But I think that's what we're building towards, hopefully.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that Solo has done his job of making the bloodline something that we all can hate. However, you're going up against Roman Reigns, and you want somebody who's in charge of the bloodline to feel like an actual threat to Roman Reigns. And Solo does not feel like a threat. Solo feels like the little brother who's just trying to be cool and is going to get murdered at some point by Roman.
Destroyed.
Whereas Jacob Fatu in that role, I think he can still make it to where you boo them. Like, I think he has that capability. Obviously, people are going to like Jacob, but if you start doing these things with Solo and with, you let Tongaloa loose on everybody, then the bloodline's really going to get hated. Then you can keep going forward. But my thing with Solo is he is not a credible threat. If this would have happened after he squashed John Cena, then I think we're talking. Then I think we're moving forward. But since that point on, he has done absolutely nothing. And it's no fault of Solo. Like, I think Solo is doing a fantastic job with what he's been given. I just don't think they've built his character up enough to be a credible tribal chief, which is why I still think he's not the tribal chief. I think he's just there in the place of The Rock. And maybe then we get the struggle between those two, and then he gets kicked out, and then he goes back to the original bloodline, and we go from there. I don't see him as a threat to Roman Reigns.
What cracks me up about this whole thing is if you go back in time and you remember Solo Sikoa saying, wins and losses, they matter, right?
Yeah.
And now look at him. He has lost every single match he's been in, and he's still out there telling people to acknowledge him. Acknowledge him as what? A huge and colossal failure? I mean, it's not working.
I just think he's doing his job as a heel, guys. I think that
He is.
I
But how
think
is he going to come out of this looking good? I just don't think that's possible.
I think as a heel, he's doing good. I don't think the point is for him to come out and look like $1 million. I think the point is for us to sit here and have this conversation of he's not a threat to Roman Reigns. There's no way. Jacob Fatu should be the guy. He completely overshadows Solo. Jacob's going to kill him. I think we're supposed to be having this conversation. I think they're doing their job. Maybe that's me being the WWE shield. I don't know, but
I am too.
That's what I think.
That's all I watch right now is WWE, and I have no intention on watching anything else. But I think that the point that I'm trying to argue is there was a time whenever that Solo, everybody had high hopes for.
Yes.
And after this was over, even in defeat, Solo could have come out still being a monster, kind of looking like Umaga or something. And now I think once this is done, he's on the shelf. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with him, but they dropped the ball on what he could have been, even though he was going to lose probably from the beginning.
Very interesting. All right, real quick before we move on, still a lot of stuff to get to. A lot of people in the chat, a lot of people watching. Thank you so much for doing that. Drop your comments, drop your questions, vote in the poll. We would appreciate that so very much. And more importantly than all of that, as much as we love your interaction, hit that subscribe button on the channel. That helps us so much. It doesn't cost you a thing. All right, prediction for this match: 6-man tag, Bloodline versus Roman Reigns and the Uso. Andy, go first. Who takes the win in this one?
Well, after everything I just said, I'm going to kind of contradict myself a little bit because I think Solo does get the win here. But I don't think he pins Roman. I think Jey is in this match to eat the pin. And so I think that's going to cause more tension between Jey and Roman going forward. But I do think if you want this War Games match at Survivor Series to feel important, at some point the other bloodline has to get a win over the OG bloodline, and I think it can happen here because I don't think people are going to remember this match in 2 months from now. So I honestly think this is a good spot for Solo to get the win. I'm not going to be shocked if Rock doesn't come out and get involved or do something. I think there's a really good chance because that Saudi money speaks, and he would very easily make that flight out there, and I could see him getting involved. But I do think the new bloodline does win.
Unfortunately, yeah. I agree with Andy. I think that the only way out of this is for the new bloodline to win. And I do think it would be great, like Andy was saying, if he does, he being Solo, pronouns pal, if he does pin Jey Uso. I mean, now they feel like they're more kind of on the same level-ish. Jey still feels like a bigger deal than him. But if you could get a feud with them going and then go ahead and bring The Rock or somebody else back in against Roman, I think that would make a lot more sense, but Solo does not need to be against Roman.
I agree. It's why I think we are going to fantasy book WrestleMania, if not next week, the week after, before we get too deep into this, because I want to hear how everybody would get to where we're getting to before we reveal anything or what have you. So we need to do that very quickly. Having said that, we're going 3 for 3 here. I think the new bloodline gets the win, because if not, what's the point in continuing the story? So I think they could do it if the OG bloodline wins, find a way to do it. Maybe a beat down after the match and they leave them lay in or whatever. But I think the new bloodline gets the dub here. All right. Again, appreciate you guys being with us on our YouTube channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, interact with us, drop your comments, your questions. We would appreciate that so very much. Speaking of comments and questions, want to take a quick break from Crown Jewel real quick. I've got a lot to get to, but I hope Johnny is still watching. I'm going to flash his comment on the screen because this was a topic we were going to get to later, but he is bringing it up now. So we're going to do what the people want. We're going to talk about it right now. Johnny says, I'm not bringing politics up. I am for Donald Trump. Okay. Stop right there. Okay. Cool. Great. Awesome. The question that he asks, what do you think about NXT moving to the next night being preempted by election night? He says, I know they're going to beat AEW in the ratings. Of course they're going to beat AEW in the ratings. We all know that. Sorry, Andy. It's going to happen. But NXT is moving to Wednesday night. I just said that, being preempted by the election next week. They are live from the ECW arena. We saw a little bit of that, Andy, last night as Bully Ray, aka Bubba Ray Dudley, showed up to aid Trick Williams from the beatdown at the end of the night. Bubba had some interactions with Ridge Holland earlier in the night, looking at maybe a tag team match on this show, maybe a one-on-one match with Ridge Holland. Andy, NXT moving to Wednesday night. It should be a big night at the ECW arena.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a really big night, especially because we've seen what they did in Chicago, like bringing in Punk, and they had Randy Orton wrestle and a couple other things. I'm expecting, more than just Bubba being there. I absolutely think this is where, because I think RVD just signed a Legends deal with WWE, so I think that's a perfect spot for him to come in at. I will lose my mind if Sabu walks in. Like, I will lose my mind if he comes in there, because that's like a dream come true. So I'm very curious to see, and I think it's smart. Like, I think people's attention is going to be focused elsewhere that night, the Tuesday night. So I think it's very smart to move it to Wednesday, to where, ratings aren't going to suffer, because it would probably suffer really bad.
Yeah, it'd be pretty terrible.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, just if nothing else, just the ambiance of seeing the wrestling show back at the ECW arena. I mean, that's really, I haven't been keeping up with NXT. I watch some of the shows, but to say that I know who everybody is and what their stories are would be a colossal lie. So, but I will be watching that show, if for nothing else, just, man, to bring back some memories of the ECW arena. I mean, it was so awesome. I remember whenever I was younger being on vacation, and I never got to watch ECW. I didn't have the channels they even came on. Mom and Dad were already asleep. I think it was like Myrtle Beach or somewhere. I was probably like 15 or something. And I was flipping through the channels, and I found ECW on. I was like, oh, my gosh, I actually get to watch it. So, I'm turning down the volume so that parents don't hear all the horrible stuff going on. But, yeah, man, it's just going to bring back some memories. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, it'll be a cool show for sure. Also, Andy mentioned RVD signed a Legends deal. The Sandman, we know, signed a Legends deal as well. So that'll be a big. Yes. They're cranking out figures. They're cranking out figures of him left and right now. It's really, really funny.
Listen, that's that. I need him to show up and just like destroy Ethan Page. I need that to happen.
Him showing up would be incredible, and get Tommy Dreamer in there for one night, and Rhino and all those guys. Yeah, it would be very cool to have an ECW reunion, so to speak, at the arena. All right, let's go back to Crown Jewel. Appreciate that comment. Appreciate the little sidebar there. Again, we were going to get to it. It just happened a little sooner. Let's get to Crown Jewel. We're running heavy on time, but we appreciate you guys being with us. Here we go. Cody Rhodes versus Gunther for the men's Crown Jewel Championship, the belt that's worth, I don't know, all the Saudi money you can ask for. Very interesting build towards this so far. We really have seen it ramped up the last couple of weeks, specifically last Friday on SmackDown.
I mean, look how big that belt is.
It's huge. It's huge. Really ramped up with a nice promo with these guys. Jared, I thought it was hilarious that Gunther called Cody dramatic, and Cody said, dramatic? Have you seen my family? And you mentioned Randy Orton earlier. We saw Carell come out and jump Cody, and then Randy came out to save the day. And Jared, I know, let's talk about Cody and Gunther before we get to Randy. I know Randy is going to be a part of this, and I'll go back to this in a second. Cody and Gunther, we've been anticipating this match since they went last in the Royal Rumble 2 years ago. Now we're getting it on a Saudi show. It's the first. Hopefully it's not the last.
Yeah, man. I can't wait for this match. I just hope that and I feel like there's almost no way that they do this without there being some kind of screwy ending, because you can't have either one of these men take the loss and it look good as far as what they're building to. I mean, both of these guys were pushing to the moon, right? So, I mean, I think that Gunther is going to win, and I think that somehow this is where Randy gets involved. He accidentally costs Cody, and then you start that rift. Would be my guess.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think this is a belt made for Gunther because he can wear it proudly and, hold it over everybody's head. But I do think you got to be careful with how Cody eats the pin or loses.
Yeah.
That's why I could absolutely see Kevin Owens getting involved. Like I could see KO coming out and getting involved. And then like Jared said, Randy could come out to try to run off KO, accidentally cost Cody, and then Gunther gets the win and, act like he did it all by himself. I could absolutely see that happening.
Yeah, I think you guys are both spot on. And in the next match that we're going to preview, of course, bleeds over into that. But I think it's going to be an incredible match, but it is a belt and a stipulation made for Gunther. Gunther has, as much as you want Cody Rhodes to be your champion of all champions because he's the face of the company, this is Gunther's belt right here. This is Gunther's match right here. And we talk all the time about situations to set Cody Rhodes up to be able to lose and it not hurt him. I know Jared said that it will hurt him if he loses. I think there's a couple of different ways you can figure out that Cody loses and it doesn't hurt him, particularly with the involvement of Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Andy, I think you're spot on. We're going to see Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, or Randy Orton and Kevin Owens earlier in the night. And then this match is going to go on a little bit later. And then maybe Kevin Owens gets involved and Randy Orton tries to help and, Randy costs him, whatever. But Jared, I want to flash this picture back up here because every single time that Randy Orton gets his hands on this WWE championship, it's like he holds it for a little longer and he stares at it just a little bit longer. Does this story not, I don't know why that you're not behind this version of Randy Orton, especially if we're calling back 2009 Legend Killer, Viper, shaved head, vicious Randy Orton in this scenario. I don't know why you're not behind this.
If we get back to the head punt kicking Randy Orton, then I'm down. But we have not seen that side of Randy Orton truly seen, I feel like, in ever how long it's been since he punted Vince in the head.
True.
I just don't think right now that there's much behind Randy. He's a good guy. That's not the role he plays best. He plays the heel the best. Once we transition and make him look as tough and as mean and ruthless as possible, yes, it can turn into a great story. I just have not seen any of that yet. So until I see that start to develop, I'm not excited.
Yeah, and I kind of get that. I feel like, Randy is people love Randy. And when his music hits and they sing it, they cheer for him. He's a massive babyface when he's a babyface. But the best version of Randy Orton is when he is a sadistic heel. Yep. Except for the 2020 Randy Orton, because that was a crazy Randy Orton in the pandemic. But like 2009 Randy is the best version of Randy Orton by far. He didn't care what he did. He didn't care who he did it to. In fact, the higher up you were, the better it was the better it was for him. And Cody Rhodes was right with him the entire time of that entire story.
Yep.
So I would love to see, ultimate good guy Cody Rhodes versus ultimate heel Randy Orton. And take us back a little bit to the, Randy John Cena feud that they ran back a million times and kind of give us a little bit of a feel of that. But
Yep.
just have that story going into WrestleMania of, Cody, you're only there because I gave you a chance in Legacy. And like you screwed it up and went off to go do your own thing and somehow you made it work. But you're still not my level. Like you're still not up to me. You're still Dusty's little kid that I had to watch because you were too stupid to be on your own. So like I could see that story developing for Randy and for Cody. I'm very curious to see how we get there, or even if we get there by WrestleMania, because I could see this happening at SummerSlam or even later on down the line.
Is 2020 whenever Orton had that horrible entrance at WrestleMania, I think it was, and it was supposed to be like snakes, but it looked like giant sperm?
No, that was WrestleMania 33 against Bray.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was terrible. But
yeah, that part was horrible. 2020 is when he burnt the Fiend alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we tried to get sadistic evil.
We
Randy
tried.
Orton in 2020, and just we didn't have a crowd to help us out there. Speaking of 2009 Randy, and speaking of punting Vince, and the higher up you get, the bigger the target was. I called this on our 3-count show on Friday. I said that we need an interaction with Triple H and Randy Orton for Randy to be able to get this match with Kevin Owens. And daggum if they didn't do it on Friday Night SmackDown in the middle of the ring, Triple H saying that he's trying to protect Randy, not trying to protect Kevin, because this is a different Kevin Owens. So just a really, really, really cool moment. I want to talk about Kevin Owens for just a minute, though. It's very interesting, Andy, the way that they have unconventionally turned Kevin Owens heel. And I say unconventional because nothing that they have done, Andy, has been actually in the ring. Everything they've done, Kevin Owens jumped Cody in a parking lot. Yes, there were cameras when he jumped Randy backstage, but they were all security cameras, and he had already done the deed by the time that everybody got there and the actual cameras got there, so we didn't ever see it. The only thing we saw in the ring was Kevin trying to cut a promo saying that Cody's the one that turned on him, and they cut his mic. And then we also saw the social media video that Kevin released. He released 2 of them that we've seen. So very unconventional way that they're going about this. I'm like you, especially when you tie in this Randy Orton thing. This thing could go on for quite a while, honestly.
Yeah, I mean they could stretch this out for a couple months, at least to WrestleMania, if not past WrestleMania. I'm very curious to see what they do from here, because I think there's a clear cut person that has to win this, for the sake of just advancing his character and keep moving forward.
Yep.
But I'm very I'm very curious to see how it plays out, because I feel like this can't just be a regular one-on-one match. Like I feel like something has to happen to add like stakes to it even more. Because I kind of feel the same way about Seth and Bronson. Like I feel like there has to be something added to it, because there's no way I can just convincingly see Kevin Owens and Randy Orton have a one-on-one match. Like Randy wants to kill him, and KO kind of wants to do the same thing. So why not just let them go out there and do it? But I think it's going to be really interesting to see where we go post Crown Jewel for both of these guys, and see, do they go right back after Cody? Do they still stay with each other? Does Cody somehow get involved with the Bloodline storyline while this goes on, and then we meet back after War Games, or what the case is?
There is a huge disconnect for me, and I was just listening to Andy talk. I think where they lost me so far with this whole thing is you had the little, dust up with Kevin and Randy. And Randy hits KO, but then he immediately acts like, ooh, I shouldn't have done that. I hate that I did that. But then all of a sudden we go to Randy wants to kill him. And it doesn't seem like there's enough context there as to they didn't have a huge blow up. Randy was trying to help. He hit KO, and they acted like they both regretted what happened, but now they hate each other. So,
then KO jumped him backstage because he said that Randy picked Cody's side, because after that, supposedly Randy told Cody, hey, I'm going to go talk to Kevin. We're going to smooth this thing out. And then as Randy was talking to Kevin snapped and said, well, you chose sides. How dare you choose sides? How dare you pick his side? I'm the innocent one here, blah, 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 whatever. So yes, a little bit of context there, but I'm with you. It has been a little bit, it's been good, but it's interesting that they've involved all 3 of these guys. And the centerpiece has been Cody, because he teamed with Roman Reigns. So you've got this. I mean, we talk about Rock, Roman, Cody triple threat. I could easily see this just turning into a big triple threat. Maybe at the Royal Rumble for the WWE Championship. Maybe Randy doesn't fully turn on Cody before the Rumble, and we see sort of a tweener Randy Orton in between these guys and a triple threat match like that. I mean, Andy, I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, I think that's a really big possibility. My question is, if they knew they were doing Gunther and Cody at Crown Jewel, why would they have KO turn after Bad Blood? Like, why not have him turn either at Crown Jewel or after Crown Jewel? Because I think you could easily let KO fester on the idea of Cody and Roman not only teaming up together, but also like winning and, being successful and seemingly like, not necessarily burying the hatch, but coming to a mutual respect to each other of like, okay, you're not, like, we're not, we're moving forward a little bit. And just let him fester on that. And then, have him cost Cody at Crown Jewel or something like that. I feel like just like the Uso things, we've jumped the gun a little bit, which we haven't said very often when it comes to Triple H booking. This is one of those where I don't know if he necessarily had the end goal in mind, but just this idea that he wanted to do with Kevin Owens, maybe to do something big at WrestleMania, and we just are kind of fast tracking it to happen now.
I just wonder if Triple H starts booking the way that kind of Vince McMahon and maybe Vince Russo did during the Attitude Era before it all got out of hand, where that they have all these situations going on and they kind of just listen to what the fans are doing and then they can kind of redirect the plan as needed, or if Triple H is dead set on all this stuff. Because I do think it's moving fast, but I am overall happy that they're at least trying to tell stories and have a mess going on over here and have this mess going on over here, and somehow they link up and it becomes one big gigantic mess. I mean, I like it. It's just a little too fast-paced for me.
Yeah, I do like the overlapping stories where, Cody's involved in the Roman thing, but he's involved in the Kevin Owens thing and the Randy Orton thing. And then you've got, Jimmy and Jey, and Jay's doing his own thing. He's involved with Braun Breaker, but he's involved with the Bloodline. And, I do like the overlapping of the stories, but I completely agree with you guys. It's a little bit, I don't know. I think the 2-hour shows have thrown a wrinkle into it. I know SmackDown's always been 2 hours, but I think the 2-hour Raw maybe there's just not enough time, I guess, to really flesh out everything. So maybe he feels like he has to fast track it. He being Triple H, pronouns pal. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think we do have a long way to go before we get to where we're going, whether that's Kevin and Sammy at WrestleMania, whether that's Randy and Cody at WrestleMania, whether that's whether that's Cody, Randy, Kevin at WrestleMania. And I don't know. There's a lot of ways we can go. Again, we're going to try to sort all that out in about a week or so. We'll try to give our thoughts on that. But right now we got to give our prediction on this match. I think I'm going Kevin Owens to defeat Randy Orton here. I think that just makes the most sense to keep the story going. Randy can eat the loss. Kevin desperately needs the win, Andy. Desperately needs the win in this situation.
Yeah, I completely agree. Kevin Owens has to win this because he needs to win a feud again. Like, he needs to win a big feud again and bring back that, killer instinct that he has. I'm fully expecting Randy to eat a power bomb off the apron in this match. I'm expecting the old school KO to come out and remind us just who he is. So I completely agree.
Yeah, I think Kevin Owens definitely, but I think we need to see, like Andy's saying, I think something different. Whenever that Kevin Owens comes out, there needs to be a definitive that's different.
Yes.
And that will help, I think, as far as developing his character.
Because Triple H said when he looked in his eyes, it was different. It was he saw something different. It felt different. So, Jared, I think you're 100% right. Now, if we come out with a clean-shaven Kevin Owens again, just like we did with the U.S. title stuff, I'm not going to be a fan of that.
I want the head shaved. Head shaved, leave everything else. Remember the figure they did of him as dressed up as Austin?
Yeah, when he
bald.
Yeah,
that's what I want to see.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I want him to slowly turn into like a different version of Stone Cold Steve Austin every week. Because they already got the stunner. Just shave the head and just keep going.
Yeah,
listen,
he's just a very irritated, very distraught, chubby little man who shaves his head, and now he's going balls out.
So that's exactly why Jared Justice's doppelganger is Kevin Owens. All right. Here we go.
Hey, I have the hair growing back. So
you have that. Well, then just shave it and you can be Kevin Owens again. Or at least what you want him to be. All right, very quickly, let's move through the rest of the Crown Jewel card from the Women's Crown Jewel Championship. To me, the most underwhelming match on the card, and we have a Fatal 4-Way Women's Tag match to talk about. To me, it's the most underwhelming match on the card. Nia Jax, Liv Morgan, champion versus champion. Jared, I'm not interested in this match. I think that Liv Morgan is doing the best work of her career, but she can only help herself so much when she's got Nia Jax across the ring from her. This does not scream champion versus champion to me. It just, if we're trying to push Liv Morgan, having Nia Jax on the other side doesn't help. I think I'm not looking forward to this at all.
They could have just billed it as the puppies versus the Rottweilers, and that would have been for a very great name for this feud. But no, man, I think somehow we see Liv win it, man. I think the puppies, I think they pull out here, and I think that you're going to see her with that big championship.
Follow that, Andy.
Yeah, I don't really want to. I honestly, I agree, Chris. Like, I'm just not, like, nothing about this is exciting. I kind of feel that way about all of Judgment Day right now, which is crazy to say looking back over the last couple of months.
Yep.
They're not doing, anything right now. However, that being said, I do feel like Nia Jax is doing some of the best work of her career right now. Like, I don't think we're at the point. I think she's 10 times better than she used to be. Like, I think she's kind of fallen into that category of now she knows how to look brutal and work safe at the same time. And I think she's doing that really well. I'm enjoying her and Tiffany Stratton working together. I think they work really well. But just the idea of this match does, if it was Nia and Rhea, I think it would feel a lot bigger and a lot better.
Do you think there's any chance that we see Tiffy Time cash in after this match and beat one of these women for their title?
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly would do it.
Spoiler alert, on her promo on the taped SmackDown that's coming up Friday, she says that she is cashing in at Crown Jewel. So we'll see if it actually happens, who she cashes in on. I don't know, but Andy, to me, that's the only thing that saves the situation.
Yeah, I think that does happen. I honestly don't know who she cashes in on, though. I could absolutely see her cashing in on Liv. But I also think the smarter choice, or the choice that makes the most sense, is her cashing in on Nia. And then them feuding, kind of going forward for the title. But I don't know. I don't care about like you said, the only thing that makes this match interesting is if Tiffy does cash in mid-match or post-match.
Yep. I agree. All right, let's move on to the other women's match on the card. It's a fatal 4-way for the women's tag team championship. And yes, I'm more excited about this than I am the match we just talked about. You've got the champions Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill defending against Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, also against Io Sky and Kairi Sane, and against the NXT team of Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. We talked about them a couple of weeks ago. They're pushing Lash Legend, making her feel really, really important. I could see them sneaking out a win here, but regardless, Jared, of who gets the win in this tag match, the fact that this match and the match we just talked about with Liv and Nia Jax, the fact that those two matches are happening at all on a Saudi Arabia show where we were 6 years ago, like, kudos to WWE and everything that they've been able to do to now get 10 women on one show in Saudi Arabia.
Now, I'm sure they will be dressed head to toe.
Well,
but
of course,
out of their little turtlenecks, we will be able to see their shining faces during the match. So, yes, WWE has done a great thing. Kudos.
Do you have a prediction for this match, Jared? In this tag title match?
Man, I didn't even know this was going to be happening. I don't care. But I guess I'll go with, since you love Chelsea Green, I'll just say Chelsea Green.
There we go. That's it.
Yeah, I think this will actually be a really decent match. Like, I think they will work really well together. It's hard not to when you've got people like Bianca and Io and Kairi, and even like Piper Niven. Like, Piper's a beast in the ring. And then you put Jade Cargill. I cannot wait for the interaction of Jade and Piper in this match. Like, I want to see those two go at it.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
But I do think at the end of the day, the champs are going to retain. I think Jade and Bianca are going to walk out with the win. and just continue to dominate over everyone.
I'm going to pull out the newcomers on this one. I'm going to go Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. What a way to get them onto the main roster. I think this is a prime spot for them to be able to win. Again, we talk about situations where Jade and Bianca can lose the titles but not get pinned. I think this is perfect situation. As much as I hate it for Chelsea Green to eat a pin and for Lash Legend to just toss her around the ring and get the 1, 2, 3, and that's that. I mean, that's just what Chelsea's there for, unfortunately. That's my pick, though. I think we get new champs there. All right, we mentioned this earlier. Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed, no stip in this match. We saw an incredible brawl tonight in the parking lot on Monday Night Raw, Andy, and you said it. I don't know why we don't have a stipulation on this, especially after what we got tonight on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, I think we might have another situation where this match just doesn't get started because they're brawling like crazy. And then somebody just comes out and is like, you know what, let's just make this a no disqualification or, sure, whatever you want to call it. I could absolutely see that. This is the match I'm most looking forward to. Like this, to me, this has been the best build to this entire pay-per-view is Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed because I think Sean Ross Sapp said it, and I completely agree. This is Peter Griffin and the chicken from Family Guy in real life. Like, this is what this feud is, and I've loved every single second of it because every time they see each other, they don't even have to say words. It's just like on site. They're throwing hands. They're trying to kill each other, and I'm very excited for this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love the Brawns right now. Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, I see huge, huge things for it. Every time they come on my TV screen, no matter what they've done so far, my eyes are glued to that TV because I want to see what they do next. Yep. So I think Bronson Reed definitely has to get the win. I don't think he comes out of the feud on top. I do think Seth will get his win back and probably beat Bronson for the 2 versus 1 win. But, man, I'm excited to see it. And I'm excited to see what comes next after this match because I think whatever happens and how this match ends will be what the stipulation – it'll be what determines what the stipulation is for the next match we get in this feud.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we're done with this just one match. They both need a big win here. I'll lean towards Seth Rollins just because maybe he's more well-known with the Saudi community than Bronson Reed, so maybe they're looking for if you're looking up and down the card, probably not a lot of babyface wins on this card, so maybe you're looking for a babyface to get a win, so that could be Seth Rollins in this situation. But I'm not going to be upset if Bronson Reed wins this. There was a point in time where I would have been upset had Bronson Reed beat Seth Rollins. I'm okay with him winning here because I think, Jared, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Seth will get his win back at some point. One more match to go on Crown Jewel, and then we'll get ready to get out of here. The United States Championship is on the line in a triple threat match. LA Knight defends against Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. Jared, this one is going to be an incredible match. I think we've seen 7 incredible matches between Andrade and Carmelo Hayes over the past couple months on SmackDown. You had LA Knight and a championship into the mix. I think this is going to be fun.
Carmelo, man, I really still don't know as much as I would like to because for a while I did not have very much interest in him. I just didn't know him, didn't feel like giving him the time to kind of see what he's all about. But these 3 guys in this match, I think, can absolutely tear the house down, and it could be match of the night.
Yep, very well could be. You're right, Andy.
I completely agree. You had the upset in the women's tag match. I have the upset here. I think Andrade walks out with the U.S. title.
Oh, okay.
I think in the best of 7 series, he has shown us and reminded us of what he was like in NXT when he won the NXT championship. Agreed. I think you give him the U.S. title. I think LA Knight and Carmelo Hayes go off into a separate feud between the 2 of them, and you do Andrade and have whoever you want coming in and feuding with him. But I think Andrade walks out with the win.
So here's my question, and this will be the last time I derail us this time. But if you go back in time and remember whenever The Rock came back and everything just started booming, everything was great, we got good feuds, everybody's interested. The only negative that I see that happened was LA Knight was streamlined, man. I mean, he was going to the top. I don't know that he was going to be the champion, but he was going to be right there in the picture. Is there a chance? And if so, maybe next time, maybe right now we can think about it. But how do they and will they get LA Knight back to the promised land? Or did he just kind of get cut off before he really got his legs underneath him and he's not getting in that title, the main title picture anytime soon? What's your thoughts?
I'll give a quick solution. Move him to Monday Night Raw. That's my solution. Give him a new landscape, give him a new set of superstars, give him a new championship. That way we don't have to worry about him stealing the spotlight from Cody Rhodes or The Rock, who's probably going to be on SmackDown as well. Ship him over to Monday Night Raw. He'd be a big star on Netflix. That's what I'd do.
Yeah.
Listen, LA Knight uncensored on Netflix would be amazing. And it would be the smartest thing for them to do. I agree. Like, I think moving him to Raw and letting him go off, he got probably the second biggest pop of the night in Nashville a couple weeks ago when his music hit. And like, so people still love LA Knight. People still are waiting for him. So I completely agree. Send him over to Raw. Him and Gunther going at it for the world title, I think would be amazing. And have him win. Like, have LA Knight go over and be champ for a while.
But what are the chances you think they actually do that?
I mean, he's been on SmackDown for a long time now. I think it's sort of time for a change of scenery. Probably not going to see it though until they do a draft, which probably won't be until after WrestleMania. So I'd say we still got a little ways to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that answers my question.
All right. And if you guys have questions, drop them in the chat or hit us on social media right there where Jared's pointing right down there. That's our social media handle at SQ_.
Where?
Down. You can shoot us a message. You can drop us a comment. We would appreciate that so very much. We do our best to get to each and every one of them. So we appreciate that interaction. We also appreciate you hitting that thumbs up on the video and subscribing to the channel. Doesn't cost you a thing. We're not going to send you an email. We're not going to do anything like that. But we do ask for your support. It helps us so much. All right, guys, let's get out of here on this. Normally, we don't talk about TNA. But I have got to bring up Bound for Glory from this past weekend as we close up shop here. I want to show you all this picture of this crowd at Bound for Glory. This is TNA's 5th straight pay-per-view sellout. And what a crowd that it is. And guys, what did they get to witness? My boy, the most professional wrestler, Brian Myers, bringing one out from the archives, hitting a spear from the top of the ladder in the triple threat tag match, to which the Hardy Boys won the TNA Tag Team Championship, but pulling one out from his old hero Edge. Guys, I said it earlier. I know that none of the three of us keep up with TNA regularly, but you saw the picture of Brian Myers doing the spear. You saw the huge crowd. They're doing some incredible things in TNA. Jared, they transitioned back to TNA this year. Lots of buzz surrounding the name and what they're doing. I'm not going to say they're bigger than AEW because I don't think that's where we are. But you got to like some of the things that they're cranking out. They're creating a whole lot of buzz.
I've been keeping up. I mean, I don't know a lot of these wrestlers that are in TNA or whatever whenever I hear their names. But I do know that a lot of people are talking about them. I had not heard TNA mentioned on a lot of the shows that I listen to, the podcasts, until here recently. And like you said, they're getting more airtime, more talk than what AEW is, which absolutely blows my mind. That AEW was where it was and has now sank to where it is. But congrats to TNA for kind of trying to pull up there and fill that void. I mean, maybe they can be the big number 2 and make AEW wake up and start producing some good product again.
Well, you know, the answer to everybody's question is how did they get that big? And there's only one answer. They all believed in Joe Hendry. That's why. Joe Hendry sold out that entire place. No, listen, I agree. I think TNA is killing it right now. You know, they brought in guys like Dolph Ziggler. They brought in guys like, obviously Joe Hendry has taken over a lot of the wrestling world because every night, and even on WWE TV, you see his big head somewhere.
There
in
was
the crowd.
one tonight on Monday Night Raw. right off.
You see
yeah,
it
right to the side.
You see it every single week. I think the best thing they did was that their work with NXT because it got people to tune in to them every single week, and they're putting on a good product right now. Like they're putting on good shows. They're having weird moments and things that nobody would expect, like JBL showing up and just wrecking house. Like that makes no sense. The Hardy Boys coming back, like all of these things are happening. So, like you said, congratulations to TNA, and also, I don't know if you saw or not, but Chris Bay, who is part of the TNA world or TNA roster, they were doing tapings yesterday, I believe, in Detroit, and suffered a really serious neck injury and had to have immediate surgery on it and recovering. Prayers to him and hope that he recovers. He's a young guy too, but just hope that everything goes well with that.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, that was a sad thing after a great weekend, a sad thing for them to come off and to have that happen. But hopefully TNA can continue to ride that high. I know that was one of Andy's big introductions into the world of wrestling. So I know TNA holds a soft spot in Andy's heart. So hopefully TNA can continue and, get the big crowds and get a bigger TV contract and, get on a bigger network and we'll see them a little more often. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this show. Appreciate all of our partners. SportsWire Radio, can't thank those guys enough. WSN, the Wrestling Society Network, they have a great website. They have a great app. Go check them out. And I want to throw some love real quick. I'm going to solo myself real quick. Throw some love out to my guys over at Music City Toys and Collectibles. My boy Chad over there. He will hook you up if you are in the Nashville area and need some good wrestling figures. Go check him out. I'll tell you where to go. It's a great place. Great time. Lots of cool stuff there. So shout out to Chad, and also shout out to all of you who participated in our live chat tonight, dropping comments and questions. Like the video and subscribe on the way out. And again, if you're watching on replay, keep those comments coming. We would appreciate that so very much. All right, around the horn one more time. Andy, anything else to add before we sign off, man?
No, just another great week in wrestling, and looking forward to Crown Jewel, the greatest house show of all time, and see where we go from there.
Jared?
I'm pumped, man. I mean, even though we're calling it a big house show, I mean, there's some good matches. And I always love going back to the ambiance, a lot of times at Crown Jewel, they have those same color schemes as they had for WrestleMania 34. When me and you were in the house, Chris, and I'm telling you, man, I love those colors. I think it makes it feel like a big deal. And, man, I'm ready to see what happens.
You know what they say about house shows? The best wrestling happens on house shows. So maybe we'll get some really good action coming up this Saturday at Crown Jewel, and we'll be back here on our YouTube channel and on podcast. If you're listening, we will be back here on Monday to talk all about Crown Jewel. For Andy York and Jared Justice, my name is Chris Belcher. This has been yet another edition of Squared Circle Radio Live. We will catch you guys down the road.